So what I'm about to show you comes from this DVD, and the character sketch is Deadeye the Outlaw. Now I like to watch early television as it was very primitive and in addition it was also very pure. So I'm going to use this to illustrate and talk about the 6 videos that I did on the Babylonian system of credit debt. Now sometimes they will insert things into television programs to kind of let you know what's forthcoming in society, and if you watch carefully you can pick up on some of these subtle clues. Now many people will think, oh, that's just comedy and you're taking this a little too far. Well, I don't think so, and I'm going to use this skit to go into another exposition of the economics of today and how people have been suckered into this Babylonian system.
Now, Mr. Deadeye, we got a new rule in here. Now, it ain't my doing, but you see, the rules are set up. I don't set them up. What do you mean you got a new rule? It's up there, sir. A new rule? Yes, sir. Oh, no credit allowed, huh? Well, we'll fix that. The English I put on that? That's good. Yeah. Well, don't worry. I'm an honest man. You don't have to worry about the drinks. I'll go out and get some money. I'll be right back. All right, Mr. Deadeye. That's good. All right, put your hands up. It's a stick-up. You're holding out on me. Well, when I get a nasty letter from Chester. Well, as they said when they were going to hang the boys, let's hoist a few.
Okay, so now I'll launch into my exposition here. So I want to talk a little bit about a cashless society. As indicating the arrival of the New World Order system. So if you noticed in the skit, the bar where Deadeye was trying to get some beverages to drink had up a sign, no credit allowed. And then of course he shot off the no, meaning credit allowed. But that still wasn't good enough, so he had to go get coin. Remember, originally, by act of Congress, currency was to be coin, not bill. And paper bills were to be redeemed for coins with intrinsic value. So they were not simply just worthless pieces of paper in your wallet or purse. So here's what has happened in America. Basically, there was a time when no credit was allowed. Now, the only time you sort of had credit was the purchase of a home, mortgages. And that's about it. And basically a mortgage was just the bank owns it until you pay it off. So now we went to credit allowed, and now we go to credit preferred. Then we go to credit only, and then we go to a cashless society. And the average person now carries very little to no cash in their wallet or purse. So we're very close right now. Now, what's the history of these things that we call credit cards? Well, you've got to go back to the 1950s. And about 1950, a man by the name of Frank McNamara, I don't know if he's a relation to the McNamara, it was, I believe, Secretary of Defense. I don't think so, but anyhow, he developed what was called a diner's card. So you could go to a restaurant and have a meal and not worry about having your wallet or your purse with you. Of course, they would send you a bill later, and the bill would be about 5 to 7% higher than the cost of the meal. Now that caught on with restaurants, and they had a diners club. So at certain restaurants you could use your diner's card. Later that concept developed in was called charge card, and this is what I remember growing up, that my mother and father eventually had a charge card at a local department store in a major city, which meant they could go into that department store, buy something, and have their card swiped in a different type of system back in the early 70s, and then a bill sent to the home. Now that was only for that particular department store. So there were charge it cards. Then along came the credit card, and that would be with the banks. So Chase, Capital One, Bank of America began to issue credit cards to some of their good customers in the bank. That began around 1958. Now, where are we today? Well, mostly the credit card still, but there's this thing called a digital wallet. And I'm really not too familiar with it. But when I did some international travels into a foreign land, I noticed a lot of people were holding out their cell phone if they were buying some coffee at Starbucks, and their cell phone would pay for the coffee or whatever they were buying. So I'm not familiar with this at all, but many of you probably are. Now, what is a big concept is what's called revolving debt. And in other words, you can go beyond limits, and the limits don't matter. So you can get yourself into big trouble because the debt is revolving. In other words, just go ahead and keep charging, keep using your card, and keep acquiring debt. So I remember my mother told me about a young man, this would have been in the 70s, that got a credit card, and as a young man he didn't really have much of an income, but he ended up $20,000 in debt. And his mother and father were horrified because of this revolving debt stuff. So what is next after digital wallet? Well, microchips under the skin. You heard me. You know, the Bible talks to us in the book of Revelation about something on the forehead, something under the skin, and the mark of the beast at 666. And if you don't have it, you don't buy or sell. Well, don't be frightened, because God always provides for His children. So even if it comes to that, supernaturally God will provide for you and for me if we are here. So the cashless society is now spreading all across the world. Many, many people just carry cards in their pocket, or now even just their cell phone. They don't have cash in their wallet or their purse. So the ultimate goal is the one world economy with the one world government and the one world religion. And that is what the devil wants for this earth, for him to rule and reign forever and ever. But it's not going to happen, because Jesus is coming back. All right, next page. So I don't know if my statistics are completely correct. I had one source tell me that in 2021 there were 65,000 reports of credit fraud. But then another source was saying in 2024, 52 million people have experienced credit card fraud. That's about 60% of cardholders have experienced credit card fraud. How extensive is it? Well, I have definitely heard numerous reports from people that I know of having to close out bank accounts, credit cards, whatever, because their numbers have been hacked and people have been illegally using their credit information to make purchases. So in 1956, someone came up with the idea of a credit card score, credit score. This is not really something that existed in American society, but now it's how people function about their credit score. So it measures lending and borrowing habits. And in 1989, a standard was created for establishing kind of a standard credit card score across the board. So where are you? Anywhere from 300 to 850, or are you off the scale? You're not even on the scale because you don't buy into the credit debt system. In other words, when you buy something, you buy it because you have the cash, you have the money, you have the ability to pay for it. This has gotten so many people into so much trouble. In fact, once you get a credit card, one of the ways that they entice you to use it is to say, use the credit card to pay off your debts. I told you about my cousin, that she lived in a trailer, and she was making it, and they decided to go to a house, but they didn't have the income to pay a mortgage. And so for a number of years, they were using their credit card to pay the mortgage. So what happened was they lost the house. So she lost the trailer that they lived in, and then they lost the house. They were almost destitute because of this revolving debt that has been pushed on people. So let me just bring it back to the whole idea of a cashless society now means that, basically speaking, the arrival of the New World Order. And you remember when I had that $1 bill, I tried to show you I'll see if I can find it here. On the $1 bill, the Latin inscription, Annuit Siptis, the arrival of, announcing the arrival of. Announcing the arrival of the Novus Ordo Seclorum, the new order of the age, seclorum, from which we get the English word secular or secularism. Now I think that this feature on the dollar bill came about in the year about 1927. And keep in mind, again, these are Federal Reserve notes, which has nothing to do with anything except a system that was put in place as a substitute for a Bank of the United States. In other words, the whole system itself is not supported by gold standard or silver standard. There's nothing to support it, which means the only thing that supports it is that people have faith in it. That I have faith that when I have this in my wallet, it will do something for me when I'm at the grocery store. But the catch is, the person at the grocery store has to accept it or wants to accept it. Now, the day could come when the grocery store says, I'm not accepting this. But it's legal tender, which means you better accept it or you're in trouble. Well, what kind of trouble will happen if Walmart says, I don't want your dollar bill anymore? The only thing I want you to do is use your credit card. And most people do. Well, anyhow, the good news is Christ is coming, and the Babylonian system will be completely obliterated when Christ comes, and there'll be no debt in the new heavens and the new earth and the new Jerusalem. In fact, there'll be no need for a dollar bill at all. Thank you for watching. End of video.